let's start the conversation. First of all, Mr. Singh, I'd like to congratulate you, your ministry, under the leadership of the government. What outstanding work done in the power sector.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, stock markets are actually a reflection, and they are the very good gauge of any policy action, or whether how corporate India, corporate results are analyzed every quarter, line by line. And in many ways, the street's verdict is counted a lot. We've seen power sector stocks have been one of the biggest wealth creators in the last 2-3 years out of the entire PSU pack. So they kind of got a wind of what's coming, and you have actually, it's very remarkable, I must say.
Right.
But that's a kind of a issue also because it raises the expectations. But today, the discussion which I want to start with you is when you came into this sector, took the leadership, took stock of the situation, how were the things, how bad were things, so that we understand the degree of change which has happened?
It was quite bad, actually. We had almost about 70,000 megawatts of capacity, which was stressed. We had outstanding dues of GenCos in the region of 1.5 lakh crores. If you generated power and supplied it to a distribution company, the odds were that you will get paid maybe in installments in 6 months or 8 months. The AT&C losses of distribution companies was in the region of about 25%. The gap between the average cost of supply and the average revenue realized was near 1 rupee. Now, how do you expect a system to function like that? You had governments, state governments, announcing subsidies and not paying it. And therefore, you had billing efficiencies which were low, but that's another part. You had state government departments consuming electricity, not paying for it. So that was it. Now, we were very close to, the very tough times. But we've turned it around. We've turned it around. We've grown. We continue growing. I'll just give you one figure. Sure. The generation and the consumption has gone up by 60% as compared to 14-15, 60%. 1,000 billion units, 1,640 billion units. That's what it is. The per capita consumption has again got up by that much. So that's a growth of almost 60%. And compared to last year, we've grown at 8%. So we are growing rapidly. If this had not happened, our growth would not have happened. Our economy would not have been able to grow. Our peak demand, while generating and supplying this much of power, we brought the losses down also. The interruptions have gone down. The availability of power in rural areas was about 12.5 hours in 2015. That's 2015, mind you. And today it's 22.5 hours. And basically I keep querying the distribution companies as to why it is not 24 hours in the rural areas. But then you have the agricultural supply, which is modulated. In urban areas, virtually 24 hours, 23.8 hours, etc. The AT&C losses we brought down to about 15%. The gap between average cost of supply and the average revenue realized has come down from near 1 rupee to about, it had come down to 15% last year. This year it has come down to, it has gone up again to 45%. That's because some power purchase costs have gone up, which have not been passed on. They will be passed on when the true-up happens, which will happen this year. The dues of GenCos, the outstanding legacy dues of GenCos have come down from about 1,50,000 to about 42,000 crores. That's legacy dues, mind you. And these legacy dues will be wiped out in the next about 7-8 months. The current dues are all paid in full. And you mentioned shares. Now, the shares of my companies has gone up by 2.5 times, 3 times, and they'll keep growing. Yes. They'll keep growing because this is
stock market enthusiasts.
This is where the game is. The power sector is where the game is.
True.
The power sector is where the demand is going to grow. The power sector is the place where we are doing new things. The power sector is the place where we are evolving. Yeah. And globally. Everybody tells me this, that yes, we are evolving. And we are evolving.
Sure.
We are changing.
Mr. Singh, let me break down. So we spoke about, I look at the power sector in two ways, and guide me if I'm wrong. One is you inherited a broken system which you put, efficiencies into and turned around. That is one part of the story.
Yes.
But a hungry lion like India, a country which has got a huge, just imagine the requirements.
I know.
And I must tell you, sir, that we meet corporates after corporates.
Yes.
Everybody is telling us that there is a new industry which has taken shape in the last 4-5 years. Guys, listen to it very carefully, called FMEG, fast-moving electrical goods.
Yes.
And that is because the usage of electrical goods, the kitchens of India are transforming, and electrical goods penetration is mostly urban areas, big cities. Abhi gaon mein water filter is there.
Yeah.
There is a electric kettle there for hot water. So FMEG industry was
conditioner.
born in the last 2-3 years.
I see air conditioners in the rural areas in my constituency.
Exactly. So my point is, let's talk about that part, the growth part.
Yes.
You are ensuring, non-stop supplies of electricity. Talk to us about what are the big transformations
Huge
you
challenge.
have
Huge
planned,
challenge.
especially in energy transmission side. You're just back from COP28, and there is a massive work happening. So what are the stuff you have planned to feed into the massive demand which lies ahead, especially on, and also via energy transition?
Now, just imagine the scale. Our peak demand was 1,36,000 megawatts in 2014. Today, it is 2,43,000 megawatts. And it's growing at 9%. In 1 quarter, it grew by 20%. And it will keep growing at that rate. Because our economy will keep growing at 7.5% for the next 3 decades. Now, there was a period when we added almost about 190,000 megawatts. I have added 190,000 megawatts in this period, like this government's period. So in between, I became smug and complacent. I thought that, I have added enough capacity, so I'm surplus. And then, post-COVID, the economy took off. And now I'm right there on this. Whatever capacity I added is proving to be just about sufficient. So I am racing to add capacity. So I have, let's take conventional. So I have 27,000 megawatts of thermal under construction. I have about 12,000 megawatts which have been bid out. I have another about 19,000 megawatts which are under various stages of clearances. By 2030, I will have added 90 gigawatts. Now, in renewable, I have 1,30,000 megawatts under construction. 130,000 megawatts under construction. I have about 71,000 megawatts under bid. I already have a renewable energy capacity of 181,000 megawatts. I have 130 megawatts is under construction. So that's the capacity under construction. In hydro, I have about 18,000 megawatts under construction. Another about 15,000 megawatts which are under different, surveys and investigation. So, but the point is that I have to add this very quickly. Now, typically, hydro, the conventional takes about 5 years, 6 years. The gestation period about 5 years, 6 years. So I am pushing renewables as fast as possible because the gestation period for solar would be about 18 months. So there are hiccups on the way, availability of, various hiccups.
I'm sure resources availability is not an issue anymore because the balance sheet of PSU power generation companies have been in the best shape I've seen in the last 2-3 decades.
No, it's not the financial resources. You see, I am in the great place where I get whatever investments I need. Every bid I hold, it's very hotly contested. Every major fund in the world is invested here. And our companies are growing. The companies we started off with 500 megawatts, 1,000 megawatts are now, multi-gigawatt companies. And as I said, this is the place to be in because this is the biggest game in town. There's no other economy which is growing, which is as big as us and which is growing as fast as us. And you can't grow without power. What I have done is I have made it transparent. So all bids are totally transparent. What I have done is I have made sure that if you generate electricity and supply it, you will get paid on time. So that's automatic. So it happens, and investments are coming.
Right. And also, I'd like you to add some color, Mr. Singh, this morning about how beautifully PSU companies are doing their,
Yes.
I mean, their efficiencies have gone up, but private companies, Tata Powers of the world, many others, so there is scope for both of them, both the side,
Absolutely,
private
absolutely.
and PSU together for this opportunity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see, what happened was that period, that darkest period when which was there, 16, 17 when I joined. Now those clouds have dispelled. At that point of time, the private sector had decided that they'll not invest. Naturally, how will you invest? The capacities which had gone to NCLT, they were fetching about 1 crore per megawatt, whereas the cost of construction at that point of time was about 6 crores per megawatt. I'm talking about thermal. Now, recovery, if nobody is going to NCLT, in fact, plants which are in NCLT have come out of NCLT. Now, nobody wants to sign PPAs because the market is so much up. So, the scenario has changed, and I called the industry together. I said that, look, our demand is growing. I want you to invest, and they are all investing.
I was saying, last evening, I'm not sure whether you were able to, out of your busy schedule, catch Mr. Modi's speech, but he gave a big, kind of a scoop to us at the time of going. That, in the third term, he said even bigger reforms are going to be unleashed than what we have done before. He left at that, saying that, and guess what? We have been working a plan around that for 1.5 years. And I'm assuming beyond that power has to be a part of those plans. If you can give us some hints on what is the next generation power reforms your ministry is working towards, areas of focus, if not details.
By and large, I think, I've covered almost about 90% of the ground. We've put in place a system which is transparent, which works, and by and large, I've tried to insulate the sector from politics. And it's not been easy. We have a robust political system. We are a federal system. We have governments in the states. In between, people started using power as a political tool, announcing freebies, etc. Now, my clear message across was that, I don't mind. You want to give electricity free to everybody, go ahead and do it. But somebody has to pay for it. And if you don't want the consumer to pay for it, then your budget, the state's budget, you have to pay for it. You don't pay it from your pocket. You have to. You will have to pay it from the budget. And I have put in place rules which enforce that. So I have put in place accounting rules so that the subsidy which they have to pay is accounted. I have put in place rules which says that if they don't give the money in advance, the subsidy will not be passed on. And we made everything conditional. We made everything conditional. You don't pay for power, you don't get power. Plain and simple. And by and large, it's worked. As I said, we've turned it down. Now, I'm tightening it slightly more to make sure that whatever vestiges of the political sort of interference are there are, again, sort of pushed aside, and the sector is fully insulated. Now, this is a sector which will reward you. Because for the next 3 decades, the demand is actually going to be slightly more than the supply. My challenge, my huge challenge is to make sure that the supply keeps pace with the demand, add capacities, add generation, add transmission. And we've added a lot of transmission, etc. We've added almost about 200,000 circuit kilometers of transmission in my time. But I have to add more. I have to add much more. Can you imagine the challenge?
Sure. In fact, I'll just take a leaf out of your answer. I'm told that India's energy mix is changing at a very fast clip. Yeah. We are not giving away legacy power generation, thermal, etc., but we are absorbing or creating new towards green. But the challenge with renewables is that the generation of renewable energy is not in the backyard. It is 5,000 kilometers, either in the coast or at the
Rajasthan, Gujarat,
uninhabitable places.
Tamil Nadu,
correct.
Karnataka,
That power has to be brought to the consumer via big transmission lines. I'm told that you're working a whole lot on big, heavy transmission lines. Can you just add some more color on that?
Yes. So we were discussing about the challenges. One challenge is that the manufacturing capacity. Now, HVDC, you have only 3 companies in the world which make it. And there is a huge demand on those companies. So naturally, the waiting time for that would be about 6 months to a year. So I am trying to induce companies to start manufacturing it here. They're starting. Other transmission lines we make here, that we are doing. Undersea cables, that is something which we shall need in large quantities, because we have come out with bids for offshore wind. We are expanding. So we first did solar, vanilla solar. Then we did solar, then we did wind, vanilla wind, solar and wind hybrid with storage, now offshore wind. Round-the-clock renewable energy. We are going to have a bid with round-the-clock renewable energy with hydrogen as storage, green hydrogen as storage. So that, I try to move away from lithium ion. We are putting up capacities for manufacturing of grid-scale storage batteries. So I have we've added about 4,700 megawatts of pumped storage, 2,700 megawatts is under construction, and 51,000 megawatts is under clearances. That's pumped storage. I'll need 336,000 megawatt hours of storage by 2030, the rate at which I'm adding renewable energy capacity.
Wow.
Our renewable energy, the growth of my renewable energy capacity is one of the fastest in the world. I jumped from almost nothing. Today, my 40 renewables, non-fossils, actually is basically renewable, because nuclear I have just about 7,000 megawatts odd. Now, my non-fossil capacity is already 44% of my total capacity. So the next, we had set a target for ourselves in our NDC, and we had pledged that by 2030 we'll have 40% coming from non-fossils. I'm already at 44%.
Wow. So
Then we
the targets already.
Then we upped our target to 50% by 2030. In fact, by 2030 I'll have 65% coming from non-fossils. The fastest growing renewable energy capacity.
Last week, we came to know that NTPC's green arm is looking at unlocking value. In fact, the entire the power PSU and power ancillary PSU universe got re-rated in the markets for the last 2-3 years. But we understand now that various arms,
the share prices of my company has gone at 3 times. Yeah,
that's a proud moment indeed.
IREDA, my renewable energy financing
5 times
arm.
in 2 months. 37. It is
Right.
210.
There you are.
Yes, we track your work very closely.
So if you have not invested in my companies, you have missed out. You haven't missed out actually. It will keep growing.
Note of. Twice in the last 10
it will
minutes
keep
he's
growing.
mentioned it.
So don't worry, because my demand is going to keep growing. India is the place to be in.
So
and my sector is the place to be in.
Since out of the 5-7 key companies, PSU power companies, are you planning to roll out some other in the market as well offerings?
I'll say, let me see.
Okay,
let me see. I think that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Okay.
People should be a part of this growth.
No, IREDA was what a story. I think power PSU IPO after several years.
Yes.
5, 7, 10 years, I don't remember when was the last one. So now NTPC green arm will be unlocking value?
Yes.
You also,
we'll I get the point. So we'll come out with.
Ashad, that's interesting. You already took an idea.
Yeah.
You also travel across the world, I'm told. Not only in India, take ideas.
Not really. Actually,
but
I am a
global
reluctant traveler. You see, I had to travel quite a bit when I was in the Indian Administrative Service. So I had to travel. I spent long years in defense, so I had to travel and home. Not so much.
No, my idea I wanted to ask
I'm a reluctant traveler.
Asha, you are. But global investors are keen to participate in India power story. Are you see all these sovereign wealth funds of the world, looking at the track record of the first 10 years of the government, and especially the PSU space, I'm told there is a lot of interest of global sovereign wealth funds to partner with various PSUs. You also getting similar proposals or some hints?
You see, we have to be careful in the sense that any company partners with a PSU, it gets an advantage. So partnering with PSUs will have to be on a transparent basis. Some proposals came to us. So we said that there must be some transparent mechanism as to which company you select for partnering, because whichever company you select for partnering, you are making a distinction.
Sure.
So that is one. But that's not the only game in town. I mean, basically, you don't need to partner with anybody. That's what I keep telling people, who come from outside. You don't need any partners. India is not like, some other third world countries. Our, investment is coming because we are so totally transparent.
Sure.
My rules are so totally transparent. Everything is digital. You can see everything on the website. Why do you need a partner? And I am there. You see, I am there. My only job is to solve problems. So I just keep looking at where the problems are and I sort it out. I don't have any problems in changing systems. In fact, I have changed more systems than probably has happened, in the 20, 30, 50 years of independence. I've changed more rules, brought in more regulation, simplified rules or simplified systems. More than, you put all my predecessors together, more than that. Because I question everything as to why this way, why not this way. That is simpler. So, for example, earlier, if you want, a transmission, if you wanted transmission connectivity, you would have to specify that I am based at point A, I want to transfer power to point B and maybe point C, and you will get connectivity for that. I said, what nonsense. We've conducted the whole country into one grid. Now, we'll have a system whereby somebody wants to get connected to the grid. He gets connected to the grid at any point. And then, if he's connected to the grid at one point, he's connected to the whole country. That's called general network access. Only country to do that. We've simplified things. My transmission is way ahead in rules, procedures, connectivity, speed, than any other transmission system in the world. I mean, my transmission system, you look at, the way we give connectivity, how fast we give connectivity, and how simply we do it. I have no other transmission system, and this is a challenge. No other transmission system in the world can sort of match it. I mean, no other.
Outstanding indeed.
So that's where we are at. I mean, this India is different. We are different.
This thing, Gadkariji was telling us that they are experimenting with Mumbai-Jaipur on that parallel to the highway or expressway, there could be electrical highways also where EV or, dedicated corridor.
Yeah.
So that has to be between their ministry and your ministry.
Right.
Can you tell us some ideas which you are,
Even
if they're on an experimenting stage, at least we can get the thinking.
We've been discussing this about, having a corridor just beside the highway. That will help us tremendously. It will do away with the problems of land acquisition, etc. That has been one issue which has delayed our transmission lines a bit. But by and large, I mean, again, the pace at which we are adding transmission, I don't think any other country can match that. Imagine about 200,000 circuit kilometers in how many years? 9 years. Anybody done that? I don't. And mind you, 90% of that is through open bids. Tariff-based competitive bidding. That's it. Yeah.
Outstanding. So, can you leave us with your thoughts on, you appear to be, obviously, the kind of goals which you are meeting and keeping for yourselves. What is the secret? How have you, the efficiencies of PSU companies in the last 5 years, 7 years, have tremendous, the chart has, what are the secret sauce? How did you identify those gaps? Now they are competing with profitability or operating metrics with the best private sector companies. The PSU, what was the secret? How did you turn them around? Was it you gave them profitability goal, you gave them operational efficiency goal? What exactly happened there?
No, I review it by every quarter what their performance has been. And, by and large, I think, we get some of the best people in my companies, engineers, etc. I have engineers from IITs because we pay them well. Now
that's a big turnaround. People are from IITs and best quality talent.
Major. And in fact, I sort of try, because it's a PSU, so there is a bit of a straight jacket in so salaries, etc. So we try to compensate by other methods. Give them more bonuses or whatever. Performance-related pay, PRP, that's approved. So the people in my PSUs get paid very well, overall. Even they are paid very well. The working conditions are very good. So I get great talent, and that I think is the key. And thereafter, you sort out problems. One thing I told them, and this is something I tell everybody, that you decide. You decide. Don't sit on things. Decide this way or that. If you make a mistake, I don't mind.
Take a decision, move on.
Absolutely. I don't mind if you make any mistake. I mean, it's only people who decide who make mistakes. And I will assume that the mistake is bona fide. I mean, there's no malafide in it. If somebody else is bona fide, that has to be proved before I take notice. So nobody can just write an application that, and then I will start investigating. Sorry. Malafide has to be proved. So people are more confident in deciding, number one. Number two, I sidetrack this normal arbitration mechanism. The normal arbitration mechanism takes 6 years, 7 years. I mean, the arbitration mechanism was thought about in order to, sort of do away with the problem of courts, because courts normally litigation takes 7 years, 8 years. They thought that arbitration could be done faster. But arbitration takes as long as the courts. In fact, longer. And it's more expensive or as expensive. So I put in place a dispute resolution mechanism. I selected people with proven track record of honesty, integrity, etc. 3 people. One engineer, one officer who has been, or 1 or 2 officers who have retired as secretaries to government, etc. Totally honest, totally impartial. And I said that, okay, this is the committee. Any dispute between the contractor and the developer or whatever comes here. They will decide. Whatever they decide, I agree. I accept. Because I have full faith in the integrity of those people. So all my disputes get sorted out. Now that was a major hurdle in hydro. Because in hydro, you have geological surprises. You carry out a survey, you carry out drilling, etc., but you can't drill, all across. You will have geological surprises. That led to disputes. So, the quantity of work went up. Earlier, this was the quantity it went up. Decide. The inspect and decide. Fine. So the decision making has become faster. I have tried to give confidence, and I think I have succeeded. In giving confidence to my officers to go ahead and decide.
Mr. Singh, I must say that the turnaround and prosperity of the power sector in India is a case study in itself.
Thanks.
And we are so proud of the work which the government has done. Thank you so much.
That's a pleasure.
Joining us today on this platform.
That's my pleasure.
Great.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Guys, let's have a big round of applause.